So today topic is environment and biodiversity. In this particular topic, we are going to learn a climate change topic. So in this topic, I'm going to deal entire conceptual thing related to the climate change, and at the same time, I'm going to give you some more synopsis regarding the mains and even which are going to come into the prelims also. Understood? So if you like the idea of concept of civilsgk.com, please do like it, please do share, please do subscribe also, right? So when you subscribe, you're going to get more and more videos also. That is what my idea is all about. And after this topic, you'll find 10 questions on this particular topic in civilsgk.com. Go to that website and have answer the questions and try to find out what is the knowledge that you have gained out of this video. Right? Yeah. So let us start the topic from the basic level so that one can able to understand what exactly climate change is all about. Now, the first one. The first thing that comes into the mind, what is the difference between a climate and a weather? Obviously, it comes into your mind also, right? Let me discuss. Weather is a short period of time, whereas climate is a long period of time. Let me give you an example so that you will be able to understand. If most of the person, let's say I'll take the example of Hyderabad. What is the weather of Hyderabad today? You can say that if Hyderabad is too hot today, you can say Hyderabad is sunny day and a chance of weather, and it is almost around 36 degrees temperature that has been there present in Hyderabad. If I ask you what is the climate of Hyderabad, that mean to say long period of time. So in rainy season, Hyderabad will be what kind of weather? In sunny day, how the climate will be? In normal period, how the weather of Hyderabad will be? So all periods will be clubbed together. You will say this is the climate of Hyderabad. So let's say the Hyderabad of the climate is a dry winter, snow wind, windy springs, low humidity weathers and pleasant fall, sometimes semi-arid, highly changeable weather. We can't estimate what's going to happen because we are on Deccan Plateau, simply called as Deccan Traps, because it will be in the shape of steps, so it can be called, from the geographical point of view, it is called as trap, Deccan Trap. Clear? So climate mean to say the holistic, weather mean to say particular. Understood? I think it makes you sense. Right. Now, I told you very clearly what is meant by climate. But the topic is climate change. How the climate is going to be changed? Do internal factors related to the climate will able to change, or do an external factors are going to come into picture? But before getting into the point, we need to know what exactly Earth climate mean to say. Oceans have to be combined, then afterwards land surface, then afterwards ice polar, the south pole and north polar, then atmosphere, then biosphere. All these are the parts on Earth surface, right or wrong? Whatever the climate that is existed on Earth's surface is, you call it as Earth climate. The Earth climate can be changed by outside factors mostly. That mean to say, originating from any outside factors can change the climate system. That you call it as a climate forcing. You understand my point? The key examples, any external force are going to change the climate change, right? Not internal factors. Please make a point, it's very important MCQ, right? Any external force that change the earth climate is called a climate forcing. So climate will be forced by an external force. What are the external forces are? It's nothing but albedo. What is meant by albedo? Some radiations are going to come from the outer side of the earth, right? When those are coming into the earth, some of the rays are going to be heated back or radiated back. It's nothing but surface relativity. So the radiation entirely went back into the space itself. That you call it as albedo. And at the same time, we as a humans, we used to do most human induced activities, and we are increasing the greenhouse gases also. It might be an external force, because we are trying to make ourselves developed, but at the same time those developing activities are going to hit the climate. In turn, the climate is going to hitting you. Atmospheric aerosols due to the human activity or volcano eruption. All these three are, you call it as the examples, finest examples of climate forcing. Please make a point, these three are very, very important for MCQ. So this climate change is a concept which understood by the world in almost the 1970s. So when it has been understood by them, then a body which came into existence, which is nothing but United Nations Environment Program. United Nations Environment Program, UNEP. This is an organization, sister organization under United Nations. Clear? This United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, UNGA, right? This UNGA will elect the people of UNEP members. There will be a governing council members which are going to be there in UNEP. Those members will be elected by UNGA, and the headquarters of UNEP is in Kenya. Clear? Right. What UNEP will do? Why UNEP we have to study? Don't get hurry, I'll just explain. This UNEP will have two tasks. One, they have to watch the earth. It's nothing but Earth Watch. There will be a committee or there will be a group of people, they will watch the entire earth, a constant surveillance on environment through this program. So a group of people will be satted under Earth Watch program. They will check it out, why the climate is going to be increased, why there is much more climate is on Africa deserts, why there is much more less climate that has existed on polars, what is the reasons behind it, each and everything. If there is a climate increased, if the climate decreased, they will find out what are the solutions, each and everything. So that is what you call it as Earth Watch. Global environment outlook. You understand? So after watching the earth, they will release a book, what we observed this year entirely. That book you call it as Geo 6, which has already been released in 2014. Very, very important. Geo 6 is a book which is released by UNEP, not United Nations. Make it very, very clear. UNEP will have two tasks. One, the Earth Watch, and what they observe they will release by a book which you call it as Geo 6. Clear? Now what is Rio Summit actually? Because anyone who asks about the climate change, they will first of all come to a point is nothing but Rio Summit. But Rio Summit has to be organized by some other person. That some other person or some other organization is nothing but UNEP. UNEP is the one organization which organizes this Rio Summit. Understood my point? Right? That organization has started Rio Summit for making the people to be understood. Clear? So the formal name of Rio Summit is nothing but United Nations Conference on Environment and Development. Right? Earth Summit. So this Rio Summit was held in Rio. Rio is the second largest city in Brazil. Simply you call it as Rio Summit. This is not an important, but still something which is important for some kind of examinations, because this bit has already been posed so many times in UPSC. The outcome of the summit is what they wanted to do. UNEP is here to watch the earth, and whatever they watched they will release through a book which is nothing but Geo 6. That is what we already done. UNEP has conducted a summit which is nothing but Rio Summit. When a summit has been constructed or summit, most number of countries came and they spoke in this summit. What is the outcome of the summit? First of all, they wanted to promote and protect the third generation human rights. Right? Second one, they wanted to promote biodiversity also. Biodiversity has to be protected. What is meant by biodiversity? Biologically diversified. It's as simple as that. Let's say a forest has been existed, and in this forest 10 tigers existed and 10 tigers 10 elephants existed. and some other animals are existed, and bee forest is existed. Under bee forest you had only 9 tigers existed. 9 tigers existed, but 100 elephants existed. You got my point? You can see the more number, but sea forest is existed. 1 tiger, 1 lion, 1 animal, 1 bird, 1 cockroach, 1 different species are located. So which is more biologically diversified? Which is nothing but sea. Might be the number is increased in B, might be the cruelest animal or the toughest animal that existed in A, which is not biologically very diversified when you compare with C. So biodiversity mean to say in a place more number of species are located is nothing but biodiversity. It's nothing but biologically diversified. So we are here to protect our biodiversity also. That is our aim. Understood my point? Right? So promote biodiversity. The next one, promote sustainable development. Let's suppose we will understand what is meant by sustainable development. Sustainable development mean to say you are having petrol with you, and petrol today costs at 80 rupees. Let's say, for example, I'm just giving an example. Let's say the petrol costs at around 80 rupees and you are paying 80 rupees for the petrol, and you have a thought, why I have to pay 80 rupees for the petrol every time? If I used to get more petrol from the earth, it would be better. The petrol prices would go lower, right? So that is what you talk about, right? So, and you try to do that, and you made it simple, and you try to increase the production of petrol. When you try to do that, so more and more petrol came into picture, and let's say the price of the petrol come around 10 rupees, and it is very better, and you will use it right now. And what about the future generation? And they don't have a word called a petrol then. If you're going to use the petrol in this way, isn't it or not? So whatever the use that you had, use it and leave the rest to the next generations. That's nothing but sustainable development. Promote conservation of forest, and you need to conserve the forest also. When you conserve the forest, you are indicating you are protecting the other 3 also. Reverse climate change. You can able to find out there is a connectivity above of all 5 points. I'll just try to explain, you will able to understand. These 5 points are interlinked connectivity. If you reverse the climate, today climate is very too hard to us, isn't it or not? It's too hard climate. If we could able to reverse the climate to the before period, it would be better, right? If we would reverse the climate before, what we can able to do, we can have a better forest. When we have a better forest, we can have we don't need to have a word called sustainable development. We will have to protect biodiversity. If we could not able to do that, we can able to conserve the forest, then the above points can be interlinked. This way, if you able to solve one point, you can able to solve other 4. You get my point? Or vice versa, if you are protecting the 3rd generation human rights, in turn you are protecting biodiversity. When you are protecting biodiversity, the importance of biodiversity, obviously you will able to protect the sustainable development. When you know biodiversity, you are protecting biodiversity, obviously you are conserving the forest. In itself, it says that you are conserving the forests. When you do all these things, the climate change will be good. So any topic that you pick up and you wanted to protect and promote, all the other 4 are going to come into your picture itself. All the other 4 are going to come into your hands itself. Understood? Next slide. Earth Summit Rio 1992, which happened, right? This is not important for civils basically, because this bit is already been asked before 3 times. So there is no need of remembering Earth Summit. But what are the things that we need to remember? What is the first idea, that what is the first outcome of Rio Summit? Protect biodiversity. Second one, climate change, reverse climate change, sustainable development. These three are very, very important. So that is the reason most number of institutions or most number of centers or most number of books that they will focus these three itself. But there are other two also: conservation of forests and Rio Declaration, which is nothing but protecting the third generations. This is very, very important, because UPSC is not focusing which is already been asked, which is more important. UPSC is focusing which is left by most number of people. So these are also very, very important. So please make these things as an MCQ and learn the topic of above. It would be simple to you. Now, under biodiversity, these are the mission that they had. For protecting biodiversity, there should be some kind of organization which looks or protecting the biodiversity. What is the organization which came into picture? Convention of Biological Diversity. There is an agreement. All countries came and signed on that document. When they signed that document, mean to say, from this day onwards, we are going to protect the biological diversity that existed in our country. Understood? Now the next one. Under conventional biological diversity, again there are three children which are very, very important. One, achieve targets. Second one, Cartagena Protocol on biosafety, Nagio Protocol on genetic resources. These three are very, very important. Under climate change, our topic today, I'm going to explain this biodiversity children's and biodiversity organization also, but particular to this topic, I'm just taking the topic of climate change itself. I'm going to explain the entire detailed structure of climate change, right? To look after the climate change, reverse climate change, we are trying to reverse the climate that previously what we had. To look those reversing climate change, there is a body which came into picture, which is nothing but UNFCCC, mean to say United Nations Framework for Climate Change. Again, there are two children which came under this UNFCCC. One is Kyoto Protocol, second one is Copenhagen Accord. And for sustainable development, Agenda 21, it's a body which look for sustainable development, and under this there is only one children, which is nothing but Rio 20 Declaration. So these two don't have much. Why? Because if you are doing much progress on these three, or if you are protecting these three, obviously you are going to protect these two. That is the reason these two have been put aside, but that doesn't mean that they've been put completely aside. Clear? But to the topic of UPSC, it is very, very important. Next slide. So we can summarize as simple as that. Earth Summit mean to say Conventional Biological Diversity, UNFCCC and Agenda 21. So protecting Earth Summit mean to say Earth Summit is nothing but Rio Summit. So Rio Summit is equal to what? Convention of Biological Diversity, protecting biodiversity plus UNFCCC plus Agenda 21 plus forest conservation plus third generation. But those two are not that much important, so most of the institutions and books have left, but you need to remember those things also. But under CBD, I told you three children are existed: Achi, Nayoga and Cartagena, and at the same time UNFCCC, Kyoto and Copenhagen. Agenda 21, Rio plus 21. Clear? So we will discuss under climate change. The topic is today is nothing but climate change, right? So we will discuss UNFCCC, Kyoto, Copenhagen and Paris Agreement, which happened very recently in December last year. So we will discuss these factors today. Clear? I'm just making a pictorial representation, nothing much. Biodiversity. So you can able to find out this figure, and which happened, there's an agreement, so three agreements which are important. UNFCCC, reverse climate change, the same thing, which are important for us right now. IPCC, interclimate panel change, UNFCCC 92-93, Kyoto very important, NAPCC and Lima, Paris also. Sustainable development, so Agenda 21, Rio, right? So we already done with UNFCCC, but what is this IPCC? IPCC mean to say, it's as simple as it. It's again a body which looks after the things Again, this body is came by UNEP and World Meteorological Department. The headquarters of this body is called in Geneva. It is in Geneva. Who is this person? The chairman of IPCC, Rajendra Pachauri. But he was resigned from his post because of some sexual reasons. He did some kind of sexual harassment to a lady, and that lady filed a case against this person, and due to these allegations, this guy has resigned from the prestigious post. UNFCCC Rio Earth Summit, headquarters UN Secretary, which is in New York, 1992. And what happens? Climate change organizations. IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and as Earth Watch, they will report about GEO6. At the same time, IPCC also will give a report, which is nothing but AR5 2014. Very, very important to you. Clear? And UNFCCC. What is this UNFCCC? United Framework for Convention of Climate Change. Under this, we will study about Kyoto and other things. Again, this person. What is this IPCC? In 2007, very, very important, IPCC has got a Nobel Prize for their contribution to the world in reversing the climate change. In that, IPCC went to Nobel Committee, IPCC along with Al Gore and Rajendra Pachauri also. He is also had this for this body. But after some time in February 2015, Rajendra Pachauri has resigned from his post for having a sexual harassment case against him. He served almost 13 years, and 195 members are members of this IPCC body, and they will elect the president. They will elect the president of this IPCC by a secret ballot vote that usually happen in October. Even when this guy has came out from the position, IPCC has a regional quota for bureau chief position also, and now the election used to go, but still now it has not happened. Clear? Right. And fifth assessment report, which is nothing but AR5 2015. Please make it a point. UNEP report, you call it as GEO6. IPCC report, you call it as AR5 2014. Both came in 2014 itself. What is this report AR5 source, AR5 report which has been given? It says that the source of greenhouse gas emissions which came in 2010, very, very important. We man, when we do things for our self-satisfaction and at the same time for our development, for our safety, for our happiness, in the process we are getting all these things, we are contributing some massive defect to the environment. So from electricity and heat production, we are contributing 25% greenhouse gases towards the environment. Agriculture and other uses 24, industry 21, transport 14, other energy 10, and buildings 6. So you can able to understand this is very, very important for ascending and descending order, is very, very important for MCQ. Clear? So please make a point. The next one. So what is all about this? It's as simple as that. Greenhouse gas emissions are the one which causes the heat in the world. So which sector is contributing most towards this kind of situation? That is what we are going to learn from this scenario. Clear? Next, South Africa, which is contributing 0.9, India, which is contributing 2.8, Brazil, which is contributing 4.4, Russia 7.4, China is contributing a lot in this scenario, and CO2 emission share, which is about a BRICS, which you call it as simply. Clear? And now, low emission mean to say 1.5, high emission mean to say 2, worst case it's 4.8. Now we are under this situation, we are closing to this situation. So that is the reason the Paris summit, or the Lima, the before one, the Lima summit, which says very clearly that we globally the heat should be under this arena itself. We must limit the global warming over the 2 centigrade itself above. That's it, simple. What is UNFCCC? What they will do? United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change, which created from already Rio Summit, we already know. It is just an international treaty. Every country is a party to this. So each and every country will not be a member here, will not be called as a member, will be called as a party. So when these members will come and sat down at one place and they will talk, you call it as a members meeting. But I told you members will not be called by member, they will be called as a party. So that is the reason whenever these countries come to one meeting place, that you call it as a conference of party, or simply you can say COP. The nations who signed UNFCCC convention, they will meet every year to discuss the climate changing methods. Clear? Meetings are called as conference party. The first conference of party mean to say all the world countries who have signed this document, convention, UNFCCC convention, they came and met in a place called Berlin. Second COP, Geneva. Third COP, Kyoto. Kyoto is a city which existed in Japan. So the convention came by the name of the city itself, which is nothing but Kyoto Protocol, or you can say COP3. What is Kyoto Protocol? It's simple. The third meeting of UNFCCC, you call it as a Kyoto Protocol. Kyoto Protocol want the industrialized nation to reduce the green gas emissions by around 5.2 by 2012, and 5.2 which has been measured at 1990. And Kyoto Protocol said very clearly CBDR, which is nothing but common but differentiated responsibility. What is this all about? Simply I'll tell you an example. From here onwards you'll able to understand. There are three types of country that are existed: developed country, developing country, undeveloped country. Developed country mean to say which are at the first kind of place and they developed in every circumstances, and they will be taken some around 6 parameters. When you watch the 6 parameters, they close to the realistic value, so will you call them as a developed countries, right? So the developed countries, somewhere and somehow they used to be an underdeveloped first of all, and they turn to be developed right now, right? These underdeveloped countries, these developing countries right now are once upon a time are underdeveloped and they are now developing. So first generation countries, second generation countries, or third world countries. Second world, first world, third world countries. So you can able to find out simply developed countries. UK and USA are the one developed countries. What these people said very clearly: UK and USA have polluted the atmosphere with the greenhouse gases through industrialization. And total today what we are talking about, the heat of global or the global temperature has increased. That all that kind of mess has been created by these bloody developed countries. This is kind of argument that has been given by the developing countries. While developing countries like India and Brazil have started polluting the world recently. So we will not share much. That is what these people idea. So therefore developing country such as India, Brazil should share less of burden of lowering emissions because they are developed. So if you give a chance for not developing these countries, see, if you wanted to develop, you need to produce more. When you wanted to produce more, you need to do production more. When you are producing, you required fuels and each and everything. When you do fueling, when you do transactions, automatically it increases the emission. When you are increasing the emission, that means to say you are polluting it. That is what is idea. So developing countries have to share less burden when you compare with the developed countries. So developed countries should bear more responsibility in fixing the global warming mess. So because they are the one which are responsible at present situation. So it is common responsibility for everyone, but difference between the responsibility to whom and whom, developed countries and developing countries. That is what the idea, which is nothing but common and differential responsibility. So Kyoto Protocol followed this principle and assigned separate responsibilities for each and every country. So for assigning separate responsibilities, there will be countries that have been democrated into a separate table. We will see. You understand the point? So this is called annexure. Annexure means to say the last page of the book, what we call normally, right? So Annex 1 mean to say industrialized countries or much good in transactions, USA, France, Japan, all. They are the one which created, they developed, that mean to say what? They have developed mean to say they have polluted the world before. Clear? So now they are the one have to take much more responsibility. Clear? Understood? Annex 2. A subgroup of Annex 1 countries, they have developed, but they cannot able to give the financial assistance and technology. So that is the reason they are not much developed when you compare with the most developed nations. So a subgroup of Annex country, these Annex 2 countries are required to give some kind of financial assistance and technology to the developing countries. That's simply called as non-Annex. So a group in Annex will act as a driver to the non-Annex countries. Non-Annex will be the developing country like India, Brazil, China, and they don't have any compulsory bindings, but they have to reduce because it is a common responsibility for everyone, and if they are doing it, they will be encouraged. Annex A, which contains carbon dioxide, methane, 6 greenhouse gas emissions, which are methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons, and sulfur hexafluoride. These are the ones which are creating the whole mess in the entire world. Annex B, this gives the Annex 1 country, developer country, compulsory binding, whereas simply mean to say USA has to cut down their emissions by 7%. How does it work? It's so simple. You know how broadband internet billing works? There are plans, example, for 2 GB for 500. So that mean to say as long as you download the music, movies worth less than or equal to 2 GB, you will able to get a 500 bill itself. If you download more than the 2 GB, you will able to charge. It's as simple as that. The same way, under Kyoto Protocol, each Annex B country, Annex B, what is meant by Annex B? The last one, you can able to find out over here. Right? Annex B. Country is given emission target Kyoto units. For example, the year 2009, let's say, for example, I'm just giving an example. Australia allowed a quota of this much quota units. Each unit is equal to 1 ton of carbon dioxide. And now as long as Australia emits in the range, there is no problem. If Australia emits more than that, what happens when you cross the 2 GB, you will be charged 1 rupee per MB, right? The same way, when you release more than the Kyoto units, you will be charged. But for that we had plans. How? It's as simple as that. So Australian government should take all the steps to make sure it does not cross the quota. For example, how they should not able to cross? Make compulsory and anti-pollution laws. For example, a tire making company daily output is 200 tires and must not emit more than 200 tons of greenhouse gas per year. Or promote solar energy, reducing tax on solar cells, windmill equipment. If you do this way also, it would be helpful. If you promote solar energy, you are using the energy, you are not using the petrol or something like that, right? So it should be helpful. And if you wanted to promote the solar energy, first of all, what you need to do, you reduce the tax on it and try to create the wind energy. It would be better. If a family buys second-hand car, then it will have to pay higher tax, just like as China one-child policy. But now China has abolished. That's a different story altogether, and there is a video on it, you can able to lecture. Right? If a kid is found bunking in his college lecture and loitering on his motorbike, then he will be fined for polluting the environment. Normally we do in all things, right? But even after all these measures, if Australia wanted to emit more greenhouse gas, they need to buy the extra quota or units. If you cross 2 GB, then what you need to pay? You need to pay 1 MB per 1 rupee. The same way, there are 3 different plans that we had. It's as simple as that. What are the 3 different plans we had? Carbon trading. Carbon should be traded. or clean development mechanism, we had another plan for you, and joint implementation. What is these three plans all about? Carbon trading. We will see by an example, you will able to understand. Suppose for example, Annex B countries, Japan and Australia, mean to say they have to cut down their emission by 7%. USA, the example. Japan has 100 units and Australia was given 200 units. Now what happened? Australian government is unable to maintain the limit and Australia emit 210 units in a year. So now 10 units is extra. Now let's say for the example, Japan has they have taken each and every measures, and they did each and everything in 90 units. So 10 units they can buy from Japan. In turn, Japan will able to get money. So under emission trading, Australia can buy 10 spare quota units from Japan and thus remain within the limit. You got my point? This is what you call it as carbon trading. So every person has to release this much only carbon dioxide. But when you cross that carbon, you have to buy whichever there is a less, you need to buy. But let's take another example, or let's decide the situation in a different way. If Japan also already crossed 110 units or 120, they have did it, and every country in the world has did, developed countries, mostly Annex 1 and Annex 2 countries have did the same kind of action, then we had another solution for you, which is nothing but clean development mechanism. No issues, Baba, we have another plan. So Australia is given 200 units, but it emits 210. Now Japan has already done 120. Now Australia can't able to go to Japan. So that is the reason we have given some other. Australia can finance a solar power project in some village in India. So non-annex country, they are developing country. They didn't do anything. And they require this kind of thing. They can't able to have the solar power and each and everything, because one thing, they might don't have the technology, and even they have a technology, they don't have money to implement this in entire country. So that is the reason. So you finance them and get a certificate from India for reducing 10. In this way, Australia is in limit. Suppose Australian government has passed a law on steel production. Company per almost 200 tons of steel must not emit more than that. Even in this kind of situation also, the steel company has did worst. So steel company should not emit more than 10 units of greenhouse gas in a year. But steel company has done with 20 units. So it crossed 10, and in addition to the 10, it had other 10. So now that steel company have to come to India and they have to finance some other project in India and get the 10 mark certificate and produce it to Australian government. So this is what you call it as a clean development mechanism and joint implementation. This is similar to the clean development mechanism. Australia can do a good project in non-developing country, like a non-annexing country like India, developing country. So Australia can do a good project in another annexed country to meet the quota. It's as simple as that. You got my point? Right. So we will see the next part in the next class. And before getting into the next class, what I'll try to tell you is that you just go through the entire video once again, and after finishing with that, we will see the next part of it, right? So in the next part, we are going to learn some more interesting things related to the climate change. Thank you.